Yes, you can start.
It's well said. Knowledge is key to success. And to gain more knowledge, we are back again. Hope you all are fine, refreshed to gain more and more. Now, it's time to begin our first technical session of the evening, day 4th, ICHW 2021. We have our great speaker amongst us. It said, great things never come from comfort zones. Move ahead, work hard, and achieve what you want. These are the words I get when I think about our top notch speaker, Dr. Abhay Bang. He's a physician and internationally recognized public health expert. He did his MD in medicine, MPH, Johns Hopkins University, USA. He's the founder director of SEARCH, Society for Education, Action, and Research in Community Health. Dr. Bang grew up in Mahatma Gandhi Sevagram Ashram. Hence, inspired by social idols, he deliberately chose to serve where the problems were. For the past 30 years, he and his wife, Dr. Rani Bang, have lived and worked in the tribal district of Gadichiroli in Maharashtra. Dr. Bang's work on childhood pneumonia and home-based newborn care has shaped global policy, with HPNC having scaled both nationally and globally. He has been a member of Government of India's high-level expert group on universal health coverage, the High-Level Committee on Tribal People, and is currently the chairman of Expert Committee on Tribal Health, Government of India. He has received nearly 60 national and international awards and was awarded with the Padma Shri in 2018 by the Government of India. He has over 50 publications and he's the author of several books as well. We heartily welcome you, sir. Today, he'll be enlightening us on Gandhian views on health relevance in COVID. Dr. Abhay Bang.
Thank you very much. I am very grateful that you have invited me to speak with this audience, with which usually I do not get opportunities to have dialogue. So I must thank Professor Pradeep and Dr. Abhishek Devikar for inviting me and making this possible. The very basis of modern medicine in which I am trained is physical, biological, and chemical. While the fundamental faith and argument of yoga and naturopathy is moral and spiritual, fasting or yoga or aswadavrata have a strong moral and spiritual aspect. Hence, today with you, I shall try to address the issue of COVID pandemic not through my usual lens of modern medicine, but through the lens of the tallest person of the century, Mahatma Gandhi. What would he do? That's a question. The whole world is confused as well as petrified by the current global crisis. And this global crisis is not single, but it is triple. One based on other, based on another. There's obviously a corona pandemic, which I don't have to describe. But when it started, just before that, there was a global economic recession. And then underneath is the gigantic global challenge of climate change and global warming. Three crises of global size, magnitude, and great significance. How should we address these three challenges? So let's throw this challenge to Mahatma Gandhi. Faced with the present crisis and present triple crisis, what would Gandhi do? Now, to find what he would do, where should we look for the answers? We can, of course, look into the books and his writings, but the best place to look at to find his probable answer is his own life. He has himself said, "My life is my message." That is the place we should look for the answers. His solutions will have some common features. First, he will not merely preach. He will act. He will practice himself first. That's why he could make that very audacious statement, "My life is my message. Look at the way I live, and that's my message." Think about this a little more seriously. You and I cannot utter this statement because it's a very, very bold, morally courageous statement that my life is my message. My message and the way I live, my theory and my practice have no difference. But he could make that statement. So we'll have to look for his answers, not in his sermons, not in his writings, but in his life, in his living. How did he live? Second common feature would be that he would begin with action, local action. He would not chase the whole world to change it. He would begin with a local action because he had that faith, which the poet William Blake has very beautifully said, to be able to see the earth in a grain of sand. We should be able to see the whole planet, whole earth in a small grain of sand. It is same, it is as sacred as the earth. Gandhi was able to do that. So he didn't run after the world. He always began his action locally. And then finally, his actions would to begin with look very small and silly, like spinning the wheel, like picking a fistful of salt. But history would tell us that these small beginnings snowballed into public disobedience actions, which ultimately won India the freedom. So when I ran this thought experiment as to what would Gandhi do, I received a 9-point program. And I intend to share that with you, as this is what Gandhi probably would have done facing today's crisis. Naturally, his response will not be merely physical medicine or merely naturopathy, but it will be much larger, moral, political, global action. So his first action would be, we are all today gripped with the pandemic of fear. The virus of fear has captured the whole humanity. Gandhi would ask us to first shed the fear, as he asked Indians to shed the fear of British. They did, and we won the freedom. His one argument for asking us to shed the fear is, magnitude of fear is out of proportion to the risk of death. Finally, look, you are not worried about cough and cold which the corona causes. Everybody is worried about the possible death. Now, the risk of death, except probably in the very old or comorbid conditions, or those who are doing health work, except for those small groups, specific groups, the risk of death in general population is really very small. Even after this devastating second wave, the risk of death in Indian population is less than 0.03%. So he would say, ignore, don't be afraid. But then his second argument would be that fear is a counterproductive emotion. Instead of helping you to overcome the challenge, it paralyzes you. And his last argument, of course, would be spiritual. He would say, human body is anyway perishable, but soul is immortal. And you are not your body, but you are your soul. So why fear? And the beauty is that fear being unreal, and when Gandhi would say that shade the fear would melt away. His second solution, his second instinct would be really care of the sick. That came very naturally to him. Expressed as seva of the Rugna, but on numerous occasions in his life, one can see that he provided medical care, not only medical care, but physical care, nursing care to sick. In the First World War, during the Boer War in South Africa, during the pandemics of plague and flu in India, he personally nursed the sick patient in his ashram. I grew up in his ashram. In Bapu Kuti, he had only 2 rooms, but then there was a separate room for keeping and treating sick patients. So treating sick patient, and finally we all know the story of late Parchure Shastri, a Sanskrit scholar, but he developed leprosy and a lot of disfigurement because of leprosy. When everybody shunned him, including his family, Mahatma Gandhi gave him abode in his ashram, built a hut for him just 50 meters from his Bapu Kuti, his own Kuti, not even 50 meters, 50 feet. And then Gandhi nursed him every day. And one of his last acts was he started a naturopathy center for developing model of rural healthcare for soon to be independent India. How would rural people receive care? They couldn't afford the costly modern medicine and hospital-based care. So Gandhi started that Urali Kanchan center near Pune, and he lived there for 7 days, ran an OPD for patients from villages. So providing care, including naturopathy care, was his instinct. And so he would do same thing to address the corona. Now, mind you, that doesn't mean he will be very fastidious about hygiene, cleaning, using mask, using disinfectant, but then his method of treatment will be nature cure. And without getting into this pathy versus that pathy, but anyway, even modern medicine, allopathy doesn't have very, very good treatment for corona. So give your body, give nature opportunity to heal itself. That will be his strategy, and it would work wonderfully well. For the epidemic of corona, we don't need ventilators. We need natural room ventilation so that infection would not occur. And so Gandhi will use naturopathy, simple methods of nursing, most important, love, care, and assurance, and he would treat people with this. By his own example, he would inspire others to overcome the fear of corona and nurse those who need treatment because they have been abandoned without care. Healthcare system is unable to provide care to all. In addition to that, during the pandemic, a large number of other diseases, other sicknesses, including non-communicable diseases, patients are unable to get care because COVID patients, the crowd of the COVID patients. Now, Gandhi's solution will not be new hospitals. He will not ask us to multiply the medical industry, but he will advise us to live healthy lifestyle. Ahar Niyantran, Aswad, if you have heard his 11 vows, Ahimsa, Satya, Steya, Brahmacharya, Sangraha, Sharira, Shrama, and Aswad, physical body labor. He will not ask you to go to the gym and waste the electricity and spend your calories. He would ask you to go to a field, work in the farm, clean the roads, so that you do something socially useful, but at the same time you get body exercise also. Gandhi's emphasis, if I understand him correctly, would have been make people capable of living healthy lifestyle so that they are not dependent on doctors, on diagnostics, on drug industry or hospitals, but the individuals and the families and communities will be able to take care of their own health. They will be masters of their own health. At the same time, they'll be autonomous, independent. I call this vision about health, which is borrowed from Mahatma Gandhi, as Arogya Swaraj, where people have their health in their own hands. So Gandhi will really propagate Arogya Swaraj in face of Corona. And the last part of his healthy lifestyle would be, we all know his abhorrence for addictive substances, especially for alcohol and tobacco. Today, modern science, public health science would heavily support Mahatma Gandhi because now, globally, alcohol and tobacco have become two of the topmost 7 causes of death, disease, and disability. Corona so far has killed nearly 4 lakh persons in India. Alcohol every year kills 5 lakh persons, and tobacco kills every year 10 lakh persons. And ICMR tells us that the rowdy behavior at the alcohol shops and pubs and those who eat tobacco and spit out, they enhance the spread of the corona. And so Gandhi's message against alcohol, tobacco, and all sort of addictions will be very much in line with his Arogya Swaraj, but will also really effectively address how we can maintain our own health and not risk of corona. His one statement, when he was asked for a message, he said, "I shall give you a talisman." That quotation is very famous, so I won't even bother to repeat it here. But that talisman, that test that he gave to confuse people like you and me as to what should be, where is my duty, what should I do? So he gave us that test, that the most miserable, helpless human being that you ever saw in your life, he is your duty. She is your duty. This is a very specific test. It is good to say Desh Seva, but what does it mean? What do I do by Desh Seva? It is good to say Bharat Mata, but where is Bharat Mata? Whom do I serve? Gandhi gave us a very specific, the most miserable, helpless, wretched human being that you ever saw in your life, he or she needs your help. And so, in today's situation, who would be Gandhi's talisman? This person he called talisman, a magic wand which gives answer to your question, where is my duty? If I apply Gandhi's talisman to the present situation, this COVID epidemic, it doesn't require much head scratching really. Those lakhs of hungry, displaced laborers, humiliated, thirsty, walking towards their homes 100 miles away, which they left once for getting jobs in the urban area, but they were again displaced from the urban areas. So twice displaced, twice refugee, sick, hungry. Some of them reached, some of them did not. Died on way. The long march of the laborers during Corona pandemic reminds us of the great tragedy of 1947, the partition tragedy, when lakhs of people were displaced and walked huge distances. We continue to generate very similar tragedies. Now, shunning the limelight of Delhi, on 15th August 1947, Gandhi was not in Delhi. He was not with Jawaharlal Nehru or Vallabhbhai Patel or Mountbatten. He was serving people, affected people in Kolkata, because there were Hindu-Muslim riots. He was wiping the tears of the affected people, trying to establish peace in Calcutta. So Gandhi will not be with the power. Gandhi will not be in the chair. He will be walking with the people who need him. And so, in this situation, Gandhi would ask us, but before that, he would himself go to those displaced laborers, arrange for them food, shelter, medicines, but most important, he would help them to preserve their dignity and hope. For their livelihood, he would advocate his famous magic tool, charkha, that would give them livelihood, and he would ask us, the urban people, to buy that cloth, khadi cloth, wear it like I am wearing, so that these people would get employment. And as a symbol of unity, I think Gandhi would have gone and started a new Dandi march to protest against the injustice on those displaced laborers, to fight for their rights, and to draw world's attention to the plight of those laborers. Gandhi's fourth action, and that is the last incomplete cause of his life. In 46, 47, early 1948, India was inflamed with the communal riots, Hindu-Muslim riots. India got independence, but also partition and the Hindu-Muslim hatred. And Gandhi was deeply wounded by his Hindus and his Muslims turning against each other and killing each other, destroying each other with hatred and violence. And so, because he had seen that violence and hatred on the grand scale at the time of partition, during today's corona epidemic, he would see the glimpses of it amongst the Indians. When the corona arrived in India, go back 16, 18 months earlier, when corona arrived in December 19 and January 20, India was busy on issues like Hindu-Muslim issues. There were slogans in Delhi, Goli Maro Salon Ko. We were busy stoking communal hatred. India was divided almost, the hearts were divided on the religious and communal lines. And political leaders added gasoline to it, or probably they started it. So Gandhi would try to douse these flames. And how would he do it? Again, he would bring together Hindus and Muslims, Christians and Sikh, untouchables and tribals all together, his true India. He would himself go and live amongst their colonies, in their houses. He would wipe the tears. He would provide protection to those who had suffered in communal riots, and he would invite risk of his second assassination for doing this. The fifth action which Gandhi would do is, in the corona epidemic, the fear of corona and strict lockdown have forced people to shut their doors and shun the contact with my neighbors. Gandhi would not approve this. He would say, I am responsible for my neighbors. That's my swadharma, my duty. To love and serve them, to care for them, is my swadharma. Especially in this hour when they badly need it. Governments obviously cannot provide this kind of protection and support to everybody, 140 crore people. And so it is the duty of you and me, individuals, to get over the fear of contact with other persons. How can there be neighborhood without contact? And how can be there nationhood without neighborhood? If we cannot be good neighbors, we cannot be citizen of one nation. There is no nation without neighborhood. So I suspect that Gandhi would even launch Satyagraha to overcome this sort of untouchability that we all of us had developed towards each other. He would challenge these social ghettos created by lockdowns. And he would say that to provide care to my neighborhood is my birthright. It is my responsibility. It takes a Gandhi to take such moral position. And when he takes it up, we can look at ourselves and realize how this fear of corona has turned everybody into an untouchable. We are all avoiding each other's contact. Gandhi would help us overcome this. He would be truthful and honest, ever ready to accept his mistakes. He had a rare courage. In 1922, his Asahkar Andolan against the British people resulted in a severe episode of violence at a place called Chauri Chaura in UP. 22 policemen, British policemen, were assassinated by a crowd of Indians. That was a blot on the movement, but yes, but this sort of episode do occur during large movement, people said. Gandhi said, no, this is my error of judgment. I thought that India was ready for a non-violent mass movement, but India was not. That's why this violence occurred. I take the moral responsibility. It was my Himalayan blunder to have started this movement when Indian people were not ready for it. I take the blame. I withdraw the whole movement. He risked, he had just become the national leader in 1920. And within 2 years, he owned a mistake, which most people said is not mistake at all. But he said, no, this is my error of judgment, a moral blunder. And he withdrew the movement. Where is that kind of leadership today? The national leadership in India and the global leadership world over have committed one mistake after another. Now, mistakes are natural because this was a new disease. Nobody knew how it spread, how to prevent it. So it's not that the mistake would not happen. They would, because we were charting into a dark territory, unknown territory. But where is the honest admission of the mistake? We change the dose schedule of vaccines and still claim that we are being scientific. We enforce national lockdowns with few hours notice and people suffer. And nobody says that I did a mistake. The World Health Organization first said, prevent the infection, and then said, treat the sick, and then finally said, learn to live with corona. The goalposts have been changing. The strategies have been changing. Partly it is natural because this is evolving science. We hardly know anything. But people feel frustrated because those who provide all those major political and scientific decisions, they never say that, yes, I did a mistake. Gandhi would do that. And very surprisingly, people would trust him even more. When he would say that my judgment was wrong, I did an error, I'm sorry about it, people would even more trust him that this man is honest, this man is truthful. That's why we can trust him. In the past 12 years, from the recession, economic recession of 2008 to the economic crisis of 2020, we have seen that the globalized economy is too fragile. The supply line from China becomes threatened politically or environmentally. Anytime war between India and China, and Chinese goods may stop. The global economy crumbled in the face of local tremors like the real estate scam in the US or the corona pandemic which started in Wuhan. Globalized economic order has failed us. It has failed the farmers in India. It has failed the unemployed youth and unemployed laborer in India. Gandhi would remind us the humanness and stability of local production, local consumption, and local community relationships. He called it Grama Swaraj. He would ask us that, well, the world is very fine. Spiritually, you can believe that you are part of this whole world, but you always are located in one place. That place, that community, that people, that is your local world. You are responsible towards it. That is Gram Swaraj. He would promote khadi, handspun, hand-woven khadi. He would promote Gramodyog, village industries, and even Manrega. Though he will not give Mahatma Gandhi, he wouldn't give his own name to that scheme. But then he would provide food and employment to everybody through schemes like Charkha and Manrega and Gramodyog. Instead of China or US producing what you and I consume, and thus creating an economy of dependence, which invariably turns into an economy of arm twisting and exploitation. Gandhi would advise us local economy of small scale. And such change in the production system of economy from gigantic large scale to small local scale invariably would be accompanied decentralization of production, decentralization of economy will always be accompanied by decentralization of power. When all policy decisions about production, distribution of vaccine are taken by a small group in Delhi, power is concentrated there. And 140 crore people have to just accept it and suffer. When the economic power gets decentralized, the political power also gets decentralized. And that is true democracy. During the globalization era, authoritarian governments have emerged world over. Even in democratically elected countries, the leaders tend to become authoritarian because they have unlimited power. In the name of controlling corona, you can control everything. Gandhi, because he propagated Gram Swaraj, there was no possibility of large-scale authoritarian regimes. For him, true democracy, true relationship can only be practiced locally. But when he'll talk about khadi and handspun productions and gramodyog, many modern consumers from urban areas would say, but what about our needs? The giant global production system has created a lot of such needs, and we are addicted to those needs. Gandhi would try to explain us that, look, your unlimited desire to consume, the insatiable demand for 24 hours sensory titillation of your sense organs and pleasures, these are not your needs. They are artificially planted in you, unnatural habits, so that your mind constantly demands this kind of consumption. These are not your true needs. You don't need these for survival or creative and productive life or to be healthy. His famous statement again, there is enough on this earth for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed. So he would ask us to limit our needs. Forget the greed, limit the needs to most essential. That's why in his book Hind Swaraj, he defines Swaraj not as the rule of self. All of us usually mean Swaraj ka matlab kya hota hai? Mera raaj chale. Rule of the self. He called it not rule of the self, but rule on the self. To be able to control your mind, your desires, your behaviors, that is true Swaraj. Mind is a bad master. Gandhi asked us to become master of the mind. That is Swaraj. And so if you control your needs and unnecessary consumption, We don't need such mass production and global economy and global dependence and global authoritarianism. And when we would limit our needs and greed, excessive production and consumption would stop or diminish. This hedonistic travel and mad transport in the name of tourism, the smoke and dust in the skies would start clearing. The blaring cacophony of modern life, the constant noise and friction and smoke and dust will be replaced by sweet chirping of birds and children laughing. And lo and behold, with this, the global warming would also start diminishing. The skies and waters would again become blue. And that's how the triple crisis which we talked about. The crisis of corona. We discussed the measures that Gandhi would advocate. The crisis of global warming and the crisis of economic recession. Gandhi had answers to all this, and he would advise us to practice this, but most important, he would himself practice. Now his last act. The last act that Gandhi would do, and he advised us to do, would be prayer. At the end of each day, after you have done all that you could do, you have put in your best efforts, at the end of it, he would say, now become quiet, be peaceful, sit down for a while, and submit. Submit to whom? That depends on you. That is your choice. You could submit to God. You could submit to life. You could submit to nature. Whomsoever you want to submit. But submit and surrender. Surrender your ego. Surrender your expectations and demands. Surrender your chattering of mind. You have done the best you could. There is nothing more now you can do. Then why carry the burden further? Carrying the burden of anxiety and expectation would unnecessarily make you an ass. So keep aside that burden, become free, and for that, pray. And with the prayer, our ego will become less, our anxiety, stress would become less, our selfishness would become less, and maybe, if that happens, we will be able to become, through our heart, really global. And after that, we could pray that inshallah, we could pray that Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. We could say that thy will be done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have one question from the participant. How we can help patients to come out of physical and mental disturbances caused by COVID in very much feasible and economical way?
Sorry, I lost you. I couldn't hear you completely.
Yes, sir. How can we help patients to come out of physical and mental disturbances caused by COVID in a very much feasible and economic way?
That's what I spoke for the last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And so, if the person who is asking question, I'll request him, if the recording is available, he can probably review what I spoke. What Gandhi would ask us: shed the fear, serve those who need, natural way, allowing body to heal itself, living healthy lifestyle, helping each other, neighborhood and helping each other, and having local economy and local community. These are the ways. And finally, pray.
True.
The same message would apply to for care of the COVID patients.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Gandhiji said, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. And actually, you are that change, inspiring us to be that change so that we can see that change. Rightly, you said, we don't need ventilators to breathe. We need to return to nature so that we can breathe optimum and be healthy. We are very thank you, sir, for your very informative session on how Gandhian principles we can adapt in our life and how we can conquer this COVID times. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, to moving ahead to our next speaker, we have, it said, one of the strongest characteristics of genius is the power of lighting its own fire. And today we are lucky to have one such genius amongst us, whose name in itself is enough to reflect this strong characteristic. She is none other than Dr. Nagajyoti, President, Enigma, Karnataka chapter. Graduated as BNY scholar, followed by post-graduation in MSc Yoga. She had her additional qualifications from renowned institutions like Cuthberry Education, Spain, AcuPro Academy, Canada. Dr. Jyoti is a co-investigator in two projects. First, COVID observational study. Second, 6-month study on effect of cyclic meditation and other selected yogi practices on thyroid profile and quality of life in patients with hypothyroidism, a randomized controlled trial. To add more to her praise, she has been awarded with the Best Lady Doctor Award by Lions Club Bangalore in year 2010. She actively participates in conferences and seminars, along with being host for many de-addiction and lifestyle management camps in rural and urban areas, and has given many programs on TV and radio. Presently, ma'am is the owner of Sri Nature Cure and Yoga Center, Dr. Jyoti's Nature Cure Clinic in Bangalore, India. We welcome you, ma'am, wholeheartedly. Today, ma'am will be giving her expert knowledge on acupuncture education in India. Do we need a revamp? I welcome you, ma'am. Ma'am, you are not audible actually. You have to unmute yourself. Not happening. Dr. Gulab, please look into that.
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank you. So my screen is visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Give me a moment. 1 second. God, wait. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Is it visible now? Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Thank you. So thank you very much for this overwhelming introduction. And I'm so happy to be a part of this conference. And I thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity for this. So let's get started with the topic today. So today we have a topic, acupuncture in India. Do we need a revamp? Isn't it? So let's see how we go through it. I have framed a few questions. If we, all of us together now, if we could answer these questions, and then we could definitely find out at the end of these questions, do we really need a revamp or not? Okay, so now the first question would be, how do we design the course of the study for medical graduate training program? So I have just illustrated this with an example. And can this be applied to TCM also? Okay, so how we go through our medical graduate program now? So first year we have anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry. And in second year, you have pathology and microbiology. And in the third year, you have diagnostics 1 and 2. And in final year, you have your clinical applications of, you have all the tools that you use in yoga and naturopathy. And in your internship program, you have the practical application of all the subjects that we have learned, isn't it? That is the usual course of the study, how we do in our BNYS or any of the medical courses. So can this be applied to TCM also? We shall look into it. So TCM can be planned in this beautiful way also. So first year, if we could read the foundations of TCM, second year, we could read TCM etiology along with diagnosis, because you read the physiology and then we go for pathology. So in second year, we go with the same program. And in third year, it could be introduction to acupuncture theory plus all meridians plus cyclical flow of chi. So now what happens is we usually have this BNYS either in first year, third year, we have in final year, or we have in third year, isn't it? So this should come, all the meridians should come in, the study of all the meridians should come in third year. In final year, we go to the review of TCM, and here we have to introduce cupping therapy and moxibustion. Since you would have learned the foundations of TCM, etiology, the diagnosis part, and then you would have learned the meridians, and now you can, when you know the basics, you can learn cupping therapy and moxibustion, isn't it? So that would make your study much more easier. And in your internship programs, now what we have to do is you have to apply the practical part, in the sense like we have a disease, we have diabetes mellitus. So you should diagnose your case and select the points, give treatment protocol related to yoga, naturopathy, as well as acupuncture on the basis of what you have learned. Okay, so this would be a beautiful program if it can be definitely introduced into our syllabus. So the next question would be, is only acupuncture sufficient for a clinical practice? Like the way we have in our colleges, we have a very minimal introduction of moxibustion as well as cupping therapy. Is that sufficient, or do we need to add cupping therapy and moxibustion subject as an adjunct therapy along with acupuncture for best therapeutic outcome? Okay, so the answer is yes, and we need to combine all the three to get the best outcomes as they work on the same foundational theories, isn't it? So they have the same yin-yang theory, they have the Zanfu organ theory. The only problem with moxibustion and cupping is you need to be extra careful while you apply, and it is not that you have to have all the three at a time. Like you are giving acupuncture today, you want to have along with that all that you can give 2 cups. No, that wouldn't be the way. You can either add 2 therapies together, acupuncture and moxibustion, or acupuncture and cupping, depends. It should be exactly as your patient needs or the condition needs. Okay. And then we can correlate the same principles to our naturopathy, the Panchamahabhuta theory, isn't it? We have the 5-element theory, and then we have the Panchamahabhuta theory. Now, what I want you to focus here is, if you are giving a treatment to a patient, I want you to first, selection of points, I want you to first look into the prakriti or the body type of the patient. Then you select the points. So in Panchamahabhuta theory, you go which prakriti does the patient get into. Either the wood element or the earth element, whichever you feel is right, you have diagnosed. And then according to that, you can design the kind of the treatment the patient needs, a combination of hydrotherapy, yoga, or whichever you want, everything you want, an integrative treatment. But when you come to acupuncture, you can either apply this as a whole or pick that integrative part here. Okay, it can be used vice versa. And there are many research papers which show that combined effect of acupuncture, cupping therapy, and moxibustion, if they are planned diligently according to the condition of the patient, it is much superior than a single therapy, either moxibustion or either cupping therapy, or it may be acupuncture. So it's always better to have a combined therapy. Then patients who have the fear of needles or prick, isn't it? Now I have a patient who cannot, who doesn't want to get pricked, but yes, you can give them at least cupping therapy, isn't it? Cupping and a combination of moxa and moxa. You have to be very careful when you are giving, which season you are giving, how many moxa sticks you want to use, a moxa stick or a moxa cigar, depends. But you have to be very careful. And in case the patient has a fear of needles, you have 2 other therapies to offer to the patient and make him or feel better, isn't it? And it is cost effective for both clinician as well as the patient, isn't it? So that's, and you always as a clinician, like when we present ourselves, so you have a wide variety of tools, especially when you come to yoga, naturopathy, acupuncture, you have so much, you have diet, you have so many things to offer to the patient. But what is the right combination you are going to select is the most important part. Okay. So next question. So my presentation is full of questions. Please don't mind, because my topic is a question itself, isn't it? Do we need a revamp? So my PPT is full of questions. So we'll go to the next question. In which year should we start with basics of acupuncture? Do you want it in the 3rd year or final year or the 1st year? Good question, isn't it? So when should we start? So we should start in 1st year. And why? Why do we have to start in 1st year only? It is because it is a new subject. There are too many concepts for you to learn, my dear friends. Because, you know, it's a new subject for itself. You have anatomy, physiology. Then along with that, if we could introduce some of the important concepts of, or the basic concepts of acupuncture, it would just, you know, sit in your memory, and whenever you want to retrieve the memory for the selection of the points, definitely these basic concepts can be utilized. Like the way, you know, we use our tables. I don't give you like in our elementary school, I don't give you some tables or some multiplication problems and then teach you tables. What do? I first teach you the tables. I first teach you the numbers. Then you come to single, double digit number, then multiplication. Then I give you problems. The same way, when you learn acupuncture, or when you are into a medical training program, this is how it has to go. New concept should be introduced earlier, but it should be consistently probably taught, at least until you reach the final year or till your internship, isn't it? So it is on the energy medicine. Now I would like to add one more point to you. Like, see, now you know the Panchakosha therapy, right? Panchakosha therapy, we know the Annamaya, the Pranamaya, Manomaya, you know, the Vijnanamaya and the Anandamaya. Now, the acupuncture or pranayam, any of these, they only deal with the energy meridians, isn't it? Energy meridians, that is the Pranamaya Kosha. Now, what we are going to do is tap the energy meridians or the right combination of meridians so that we feel the best therapeutic result in the disease or in the issue we want to treat. So just think how strong should be your basic concept. Yeah, that makes sense, isn't it? So now what is the current syllabus? Now what are we focusing on currently? Currently we have modern theories of acupuncture. When compared to the traditional concepts, it is very less. That's the reason if you read anatomy and physiology, you are very confident to prick the points, isn't it? You are very confident. If I tell you, okay, give stomach 36, I give you random points. I tell you go and give a GB 34. You are confident because your anatomy is strong there. But why do you have to give stomach 36? Why do you have to give GB 34? Why spleen 9? That analysis is the basis of what we are missing here, isn't it? So now that's the reason we need to learn from the basics and be in touch with the subject until the internship program begins. Yes, we have to be, because I forget something, again, the next semester or the next year is going to again retrieve the data of what you have learned in the basics. Okay, now it is, I'm learning the 13 table and yes, now I want to use it. You have to be in constant touch with that. Okay, that makes sense. And then next question again, what all should the basics of acupuncture include? Are we missing anything in the current syllabus? So what all should it include? Yin Yang theory, the 5-element theory, the 4 substances, basically Qi, body fluids, essence, and blood. You should have the Zhang Fu theory and the causes of disease in TCM, the TCM diagnosis patterns, observation, tongue and pulse diagnosis with practice and observation in detail. Yes, we have all this. I am not denying the fact that we don't have all this, but they are too primitive. I mean, they are the information or the depth of study is too less. We need to increase the hours for this. The whole thing, this if we can increase and make certain changes, then our study and the practice would be too interesting and too good. Okay, so the next question. Now, I will give you a classic example of whatever I was speaking to you until now. Okay, now you have a period cycle. Okay, can you see this on your left side? So it is the period cycle, TCM diagnosis on timing. Now, see, when you probably treat a patient with any menstrual irregularities, what do we do generally? We look into the hormone scores of what they have. We look into the pelvic abdomen scan, isn't it? That is the basic one what we see. And then we try to design a protocol according of all the tools what we have, according to that what we have, according to the scan, according to the blood scores, isn't it? The hormone scores what you have. Now, how does TCM see this? How does TCM see the menstrual irregularities? And what are the meridians you have to focus on? So now, in case you have 28 to 30 days of a normal menstrual cycle, I mean, that is considered normal, plus or minus 1 and 2 here and there, it's absolutely okay. Now, you have an early menstrual cycle. So what does it say? It says about heat in blood. It says about Chi deficiency. Okay, then if it is late, probably a week or 10 days, what does it say? Kidney stagnation, kidney or blood deficiency, cold and stagnation. When we say cold stagnation in TCM, it always means that you have to give heat, you have to mobilize. There is something that is stuck. Okay, so it is more of yin condition. It is more of a yin condition, and you have to use yang, check which is yin deficiency, yang deficiency, according to your diagnosis, and then design a protocol. Next would be absent. It is amenorrhea, a condition of amenorrhea, which we usually see in hypothyroidism, hormone imbalances. If the LH, I mean, if the FSH is low, you can see prolactin is low, then yes, you can see a condition of amenorrhea. A normal condition of amenorrhea is when a lactating woman, usually the prolactin levels are high. It is natural. As soon as the feeding comes down and the prolactin level, or the vice versa, the prolactin levels, the prolactin scores come down, naturally, your menstrual cycle comes into the flow. Okay, so in diseased condition, or if there is an issue, what would be the cause? It should be Chi and blood deficiency. It may be weak kidney. When I say weak kidney, it means the meridian itself. Okay, not the organ. So phlegm damp, which is the spleen condition, it may be a condition of PCOS. Definitely a scan would tell us. Okay, so now we have the mid-cyclical bleeding. We call it as spotting. Usually that happens, and the reason for that would be the ovulatory time, isn't it? So it may be a ovulatory condition which has to be addressed, or it may be due to damp heat. It may be kidney yin deficiency, blood stagnation. Okay, and the random is the DUB, what we usually see, the dysfunctional uterine bleeding. Okay, it would be because of liver Chi stagnation, kidney deficiency. Now, when I see this kind of a diagnosis, you have seen the condition, you have seen the blood scores, isn't it? Now you have to visualize your TCM points here. Okay, so you have to visualize your TCM points here. If it is an early, like example, early menstrual cycle, so you have to select the points like heat in blood, the blood heat. It may be liver 3, isn't it? A combination of liver 3 and Li4 is the best to move Chi and blood. So in those combinations, Chi deficiency. So this is how you have to think. If this kind of a diagnostic pattern be introduced in our medical training program, it would be amazing, isn't it? It would be so interesting for us to even see the disease. See, now you can correlate this, you can quantify this into any parameters and get the best results. You want to do a research study, go with all that what you want. But what I want you to focus on the core, on the basic concept of the diagnostic pattern, and why will not your results be tremendous? It should be, the outcome should be perfect, isn't it? It should be the best, and you will be helping the patient in the best way. So let's go to the other example, Hashimoto's thyroiditis in Chinese medicine. Okay, when we say this, So what are the things you will have to focus on? The meridians: spleen Qi deficiency, spleen and kidney deficiency, kidney yang deficiency, liver Qi and phlegm stagnation, phlegm and blood stasis. Okay, this is how the patterns are. So if we could add all this in our medical graduate training program, that would be amazing, isn't it? So you will not even have a chance to even, make the patient feel better. Every patient, you make them feel better, or the prognosis is very good. Okay, see that the selection of points in spleen Qi deficiency compared to spleen and kidney yang deficiency is totally different. Spleen 36, spleen 6, you have spleen 3, bladder 20, you have spleen 9 and Li4. Now, if you don't even have a clue of what you are reading, you are just poking points or pricking patients, pricking the points just because you know some basics. How does that even make sense? Isn't it? So definitely we need to learn and inculcate this way. So next question, do we need to learn different styles of acupuncture along with TCM? If yes, and when? Isn't it? Is it? Now the question is, okay, now we have TCM, and how should we go ahead next? Isn't it? Is that sufficient? Okay, done. We are done with basics. Okay, you've told us basics is done, and we have learned the pattern differentiation. Now, is that sufficient? So the answer would be yes. It should be introduced in PG programs of acupuncture in their course of study. If we have a PG program, these styles of acupuncture should definitely be added. Which are they? These can be added. If there is anything else, definitely you can go ahead with that. So which are they? Ancient TCM acupuncture. The TCM is the basis of everything basically. Okay, TCM is the basis of it. If you learn the basics, then you can go on making permutation combinations in whichever way you want to explore. Okay, so ancient TCM acupuncture, regulation of blood flow and flow Qi, regulation of the blood flow and flow of Qi in the meridians. So 5-element acupuncture, it is by J.R. Worsley. It is a Western type of acupuncture. British Acupuncture Council follows this kind of an acupuncture style. You have Dr. Tan's method, you have Master Tung's method, and Tan's method, it says about mirroring and imaging techniques, and Master Tung's method, it is based on 5 Zhang and 6 Fu channel system. Okay, so we have different types. We have the Korean acupuncture, you have the abdominal acupuncture, and you have the Yamamoto Japanese scalp acupuncture. I think all of us should go with this Yamamoto Japanese scalp acupuncture because it is the best in neurological conditions. I think I have conducted a class in SDM and Alvas, there, and it is tremendous. It gives you, especially neurological conditions, it gives tremendous results. I think all of us should definitely know about this. Then you have the dry needling technique or the trigger point acupuncture. It's a Western style of acupuncture. It is for pain management. And what do we do in this? A needle is inserted into a muscle to release a tight area, thereby reducing pain and the muscle spasm. There are many more types. Okay, so there are many more types, but these are the few I picked, which would definitely help us in case it would be introduced. Okay, the next question would be, what more should be the add-on goals and objectives of acupuncture along with yoga and naturopathy? Okay, so what should that be? So compile all necessary diagnostic data to accurate employment of the 5 types of observations. We have the 5 types of observations in acupuncture. So it should go on with tongue and pulse diagnosis. Why I stress more about diagnosis is, especially the tongue and pulse diagnosis, because it gives you, see, you have a scan, a pelvic scan or an abdominal scan with you, whatever, even the CT scans, the blood scores you have, but the condition of the organ on the reports, what you see, that can be exactly correlated with a tongue and a pulse diagnosis. Okay, like you have an HbA1c of 8 or 9, let's say. So what would be the condition of spleen and liver here in your pulse and tongue? Isn't it? So that should be interesting. So when the scores are reducing, you can compare that with your pulse and the tongue and then say that this is doing much better. I think Dr. Manavalan sir presented a paper on tongue diagnosis in COVID patients. So that was so beautiful, isn't it? So if you can correlate the tongue diagnosis as well as the condition, that would be so helpful. And I think it helps. The most beneficial part during the COVID times is it helps in your online consultation. I think I've done more than 200, 300 consultations in this 1.5, 2 months, where I couldn't see the patient in person, but yes, I could access the patient through the tongue. So the tongue is the one which gives me the picture of the conditions of the body. Then I could design a diet, I could give some treatments, the home remedies and all those. Okay, so it is very good that we work on that. Then you should provide a clinical training in diverse environments that enable students to gain experience in the practical application of their knowledge and skills, as we have explained earlier. So demonstrate an understanding of contemporary business models. So how do we do it? So it is the ability to establish a clinical practice in private, integrative, or community healthcare setting. So this is my last question for you all. And after this, yes, we have the answer. Do we need a revamp or not? So don't we need to update our syllabus in parallel to the evidence-based medicine practice according to the growing trends, evidences, and challenges in TCM? So the practice of evidence-based medicine means integrating individual clinical expertise with the best available external clinical evidence from systemic research. Now, the mistake, I don't know, many of them do is, when you get a patient or when you see a new patient, please design your protocol first. Don't go to the research papers. First, design your protocol, start working on that, and then correlate that with the papers, what you have, and then start your treatment. Okay. So the current trending evidence-based practice has become the hallmark of every clinician or physician as a standard of modern medical practice, which ensures greater accuracy, safety, and efficacy in therapeutic outcomes to the patients. Large number of qualitative and quantitative trials are going on throughout the world. Yes, they are doing amazing work. You can go to PubMed, Lancet, pick up the papers and study. And we should contribute scientifically in equal numbers to acupuncture as we show inherent interest in our yoga and naturopathy perspective, especially all of us here in the group. We should definitely work on giving more papers. If you can learn the basics, the parameters are the same for a research study, but your picking the selection of points should be more on the basics of the acupuncture. Okay. So after answering these 6 questions, which I felt was very important, do you feel we need a revamp? Where are we? So when we compare ourselves, what is this and where we were earlier? So definitely we need a revamp, isn't it? We need a revamp of acupuncture in India. Why do we need it? To plan and execute a TCM protocol through the selection of strategy. How? Assignment of formula, diet, then modification of the treatment in case that is not working, because you do your selection of points based on pulse and tongue diagnosis. So it can be modified accordingly and then according to the response of the patient. So also apply contemporary ethical, legal, quality and safety practices related to acupuncture. So thank you very much for your patient hearing, and my heartfelt gratitude to Ms. Clara Cohen, AcuPro Academy Canada, and Dr. Gurudatta for bringing all these contents together. I think Dr. Gurudatta and myself have been working along with, this is our study group. You see the picture here. This is our study group in Bangalore. We usually meet to discuss more about TCM. We are all TCM geeks. So we discuss more about TCM, how it goes, new therapies, the case studies and all we do. So we were discussing about the revamp probably since 2016. And thank you. I thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to present my thoughts and views here. And I thank Sant Hirdaram College of Naturopathy, Medical College of Naturopathy and Yogic Sciences. Thank you for that wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. It's well said. The task of modern educator is not to cut down the jungles, but to irrigate the deserts. I'm sure you have irrigated many brains today of our budding naturopaths and students who want to grow more in acupuncture. You have actually revamped acupuncture today. Thank you, ma'am, for such a wonderful, practical, and worth listening session on acupuncture. Thank you. Now to move ahead, we have our next speaker, Dr. Rajesh Kumar Singh. He's very renowned yoga and naturopathic physician, entrepreneur, author, speaker, celebrity life coach, and corporate wellness consultant, and the author of book Who's Who, Yoga and Naturopathic Medicine, India. He is National Vice President, Enigma, Director, Sammati Wellbeing Center, Director, Samatva Wellness Private Limited, Director, Atha Wellness Private Limited. He was a member of National Board for Promotion and Development of Yoga and Naturopathy, Ministry of Ayush, Government of India, Executive Organizing Committee, International Congress on Naturopathic Medicine, Director, Kailash Health Village, Noida, India, Resident Medical Officer, Babu Nature Cure Hospital and Yoga Ashram, New Delhi, and still more. We heartily welcome you, sir. Today, he'll be enlightening us and giving his expert knowledge on role of professional association in empowering medical systems. We welcome you, Dr. Rajesh Kumar Singh.
Thank you. Can you hear me properly? Is the audio clear?
Yes, it is.
Audio, it is fine.
Okay. All right. And you can also view me very well. I'm trying to share my screen. So
It's enabled. You can share.
yeah. Is it coming?
Yes,
Here
sir.
it's visible.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So thank you for inviting me to this session. And thank you, Dr. Pradeep, for suggesting me this topic. Actually, he reviewed a lot of associations work and some published work, some websites, and finally, I thought there is a lot for an Indian um, association like us to learn from how the associations work and what changes can be brought in our functioning. So this is something which I think it's a learning for me as well as for everyone. And at the end of the session, many of the students and our graduates who are attending this session will understand the importance of being into an association. So my topic of presentation today is role of an association in empowering medical profession. When I was browsing the information about this, what is the history of the medical associations in the entire world? And what I found was that there were no associations, actually, medical associations before 18th century. So it is the 18th century when people, the doctors, the surgeons at that time, they started getting together, they started meeting and forming an association. So earlier form of association was not actually many things which the current associations do. At that time, it was simply the knowledge exchange. There was one John Coakley-Lettsom, who founded the Medical Society of London. He said a society of medical practitioners of various ranks who would meet together to compare their observations and compare their thoughts mutually, taking note of new discoveries locally and abroad. So if you meet often, if you sit together, then you will know what is his experience, what is my experience, and we can exchange our views. And that used to be the initial forms of medical associations in 18th century. Now, the current form of medical associations are largely related to what is the policy making attitude, what should be our take in that as as stakeholders, whether we should support anything or oppose anything. So these are the major stages of the uh, medical associations of the current times. And there are two examples to just highlight what associations do. So on June 17, 2019, doctors across India in both public and private sectors boycotted the non-essential medical services, responding to a call for a nationwide strike by Indian Medical Association, which is popularly known as IMA. The strike was in solidarity with junior doctors in West Bengal, who were also protesting against a violent attack against doctors at a public hospital in Kolkata. So there was an attack on a government hospital doctors, junior doctors, resident doctors, and the junior doctors in Kolkata Medical College gathered together and they protested against that attitude of the patients. Definitely something wrong may have happened. There may have been some complaints against those doctors treating those patients. But the kind of reaction which was there, like, they were attacked brutally, and uh, to stop and to register their protest against such brutality against the doctors or the doctors community, including doctors and interns, Indian Medical Association gave a call of strike throughout the country. Obviously, this was to highlight this to the media so that media reports this incidents in a much bigger way so that it reaches to everyone that such behavior by the public is not acceptable against the doctors. The second is that the governments also should take such incidences seriously, that any medical facility getting vandalized by anyone is not acceptable to the police, to the administration. And that was a kind of call given by the association. The second incidence in example is the doctors, nurses, and medical students were protesting at the annual meeting of American Medical Association due to the association's position opposing the self-financing options such as Medicare for all. So US government actually proposed Medicare for all, which means that uh, the self-financing option was given into that, and which means that government did not have to pay every bill. Some, if people wanted, they can pay from their own pocket. So once that was done, the students and doctors protesting against their own association, why are you supporting such legislation by the government? Why are you not making it universal, that everybody, irrespective of their paying capacity, they should be covered by the Medicare? So the members of the associations protesting against the association, that you should not have agreed to the government, you should not have supported such legislation. So these two are very important highlights of the thing to understand how associations are responsible in responding to any policy making initiative. Then, if there is an association and if it has to achieve certain policy goals, then how will it achieve it? So there are three major points I would like to highlight. One is the complex negotiation process among the different stakeholders involved in policy making. And that could be many parts of the government, parliament in our country, or the Ministry of Ayush, for example, if that relates to yoga, naturopathy. Civil society, the people who can support you. There are many people who may have experienced naturopathy and they can come in your support. Many times we ask the parents of our students to join something where we have to get their sympathy, their support. So civil society, as well as the representatives of different associations. So you know that there are other associations who may be working together in Ayush sector, maybe also representing the short-term diploma and certificate holders from yoga or naturopathy. So all those people, we have to continuously engage continuously and negotiate with them. You can't agree to everything which they say. They cannot agree to everything which you say. So there is a process of complex negotiation, which is a continuous process with the government, with other stakeholders, and with the common people. And that actually is a common strategy of any association. The second one is union-like strategy. For example, reactive measures in the form of strikes. So come out of your college, boycott the class, or protest against a government office. So that is becoming very popular nowadays because that gives instant visibility to a lot of associations. Um, but that is one final measure when your associations complex negotiation the strategies are not working. Or the third aspect, which is very important in and uh, very essential for any association's achievement of policy goals, is the lobbying strategies. So you meet a minister, you meet a secretary, you meet the parliamentarians, you continuously keep talking to them about what your expectations are as the profession, and its legal implications, its financial implications, and you continuously work together to achieve that goal. And so lobbying strategy works very well for a lot of policy objectives which any associations have to gain. So all these three are something which we practice in India. Complex negotiation process, which is continuous for decades, it goes on for a simple thing. The second one is union-like strategy. I remember Enigma has protested 2-3 times nationally, asking all its students to go out. Once, I think that was done about I think it was 7 years ago when there was a problem in Tamil Nadu. One of the medical colleges, 3 students had a suicide, and after that, the whole process uh, of regulation, central regulation, that how substandard colleges are developing, where students are burdened, and they took that extreme step of taking their life. So that became a talking point for us because it had a lot of media coverage as well, and we wanted to highlight the issue of centralization at that time. So that was the first call given by us. Many of you who were students at that time would have participated in that. I think that call was given in 2015. The second call was given somewhere around 2018. Uh, it was again a national call when we asked all our students and graduates to protest in different cities. And that was for the inclusion of yoga and naturopathy system of medicine into the National Commission Bill for Indian Systems of Medicine, NCISM bill. Unfortunately, that could not happen, but that was an extreme step which was taken. While we were working also on other strategies like lobbying strategies, we were going to the parliamentarians, we were meeting them, and actually that helped us a lot. So these are the three common strategies of in their regular activities. Now, world over, other than the policy objectives of any association, the one major activity of any medical association grouping would be to empower their professionals. We have a very ethical duty to keep up to date with the current knowledge. It's medical science, this developments in the science, the research, everything actually gives us a very different story of what we have been practicing today may become irrelevant a few years later or a few decades later. So many times we have to adapt to the new knowledge. We have to update ourselves constantly. So this is one uh, area where associations continuously update their members or their stakeholders. Uh, then Then the cost of continuous medical education. There are a lot of new skills. There are a lot of new diplomas or certifications which are not possible. New skills. There are a lot of new diplomas or certifications which are not possible. That the governments can launch it, or government can do that. Or there are many medical colleges which are not able to do that. The associations can develop those skills among their members by conducting regular CMEs, and sometimes you get support from the government, sometimes you don't get it, but associations may have that kind of fund management or resource management that you should be able to do that. And organizing and supporting seminars, conferences like these, webinars, and do some publications like journals, books. Like Indian Medical Association has a very beautiful journal called Journal of Indian Medical Association. American Medical Association also has a very well-known journal, JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association. So many medical associations do that very regularly. Even American Association of Naturopathy Practitioners, AANP, they publish a very good journal. So now they are doing a lot of digital activities as well. So that kind of a thing can be done by any association, should be done. And though we have not started doing that here in India, but I think ultimately, eventually, we should be able to do that. Now, why anybody should join an association? What is their benefit? So first benefit is the association provide unparalleled networking opportunities, allowing individuals to meet or connect with their peers, mentors, and other industry leaders. Since you are part of the association, you know everyone. So that is the best opportunity of anybody. Why you should be part of any community, why you should be part of any association, is for that networking, that your compatriots, you know the people who are in the same profession. So that is number one. Number two is the education. The field of medicine is always in a state of change. Medical professions keep update with the newest developments and scientific breakthroughs through their associations. So anything new which happens in yoga and naturopathy in India or anywhere in the world, I make it sure that it goes to the Enigma Facebook page. So if you are part of the association, if you feel connected with the association, even if you feel just connected with the Facebook page of Enigma and you browse it regularly, then you know that there is nothing new which is happening in your industry is getting missed out. So that is a very important and essential aspect of keeping up to date, and sometimes even keeping ahead of the rest of your colleagues, because you are constantly updated of the newest information. Number three is developing the leadership skills. That any association will have a lot of opportunities where you can develop your leadership skills. Like our association has, right now we have about 20 chapters which are spread in several states, and about 4 or 5 international chapters. So all these associations are managed by one, chapters are managed by one president and one general secretary, then 4 vice presidents, 4 joint secretaries, 1 treasurer, and sometimes need-based activity-wise, we can also create some new positions like the states which are having the college population, the students population, we have student coordinators. The states which go regularly to the press, or they want to appeal to the media very regularly, they have media coordinators. So in National Enigma, we have national coordinator as well as international coordinator. We have principals forum. So there is a coordinator for the principals forum. We have a media cell. So there is a coordinator for media cell. There is, region wise, we have divided our work, like in North region, this person is going to look after, or the South region, that person is going to look after. So many national executive members are given the additional charge of some of the states, so they can take a report and communicate both the ways. Similarly, there are many new activities which can be created under any associations. I will list some of the activities which Enigma does at this moment at the end of our presentation. But leadership is something which is a given thing if you're part of any association, because many a times you have to deliver on the task which you have taken. And delivering means that you have to be the first one to report, you have to be the last one to finalize it. And that's a real leadership. So you get a lot of nurturing, a lot of support from others, sometimes you don't, but as a leader, you have to complete the job. And any association is always in the need of those leaders who are self-starters, who are ready to work, who are ready to take the challenges, who are ready to deliver on them. And our association have very few hands, working hands, but definitely we welcome continuously from the state chapters, from the national executive. We constantly ask for volunteers, those who can come forward, those that can lead a task. So any association will always be ready to make these tasks possible, and that happens only because there are some leaders who come and take charge and deliver on them, and we are always in need of a lot of those leaders. So if you have to develop your leadership skills, associations are the best ones, because you know how to take work and how to report that work back to the larger body. And that happens continuously in our associations as well, though we have less people of that quality who are coming forward, but we definitely need a lot more those people who can create different functional groups within the association itself. We should be able to lead multiple committees, multiple task forces, multiple, you know, initiatives which can be handled by a group of people, a group of different kind of leaders. And then if you are looking for the better job, if you're looking for a better kind of contract or work opportunities, if you want to join somewhere interesting for you and more rewarding, then association is the best place, because you know everyone, you know all the institutions, that you know everything which is happening around it. If you know that, you know, if there is a new hospital opening up or a new college opening up, so you, all these opportunities are available to anybody who is part of association. If you're not part of the association, then you don't know anything what is happening around it. So associations are the best place where you take advantage of the strengths of the association. And these are the 4 reasons why anybody should join any association. Now, Enigma, which you see today, is not something which has happened just in a short period of time. It has taken a lot of its time to develop itself into a organization of a national state. We definitely have a very good presence uh, uh, and experience, and now a relationship with all our stakeholders, the government, and we are now counted. So yoga and naturopathy profession was never counted 10 years ago, 15 years ago. There was no association and no active group working continuously, tackling different things. But now, since we have a structure which responds to every situation, sometimes favorable, sometimes not favorable, or not so favorable, but it's a work in progress continuously, because we know that, you know, who we represent all our yoga and naturopathy medical colleges, we represent all the graduates of those medical colleges, and all the students who are part of that, those colleges. Anybody who is running a yoga and naturopathy hospital or clinic, or anybody who is doing anything with yoga and naturopathy, they are all somehow related to us. Now, what we are an association of our own graduates, and then rest of the communication depends on how we can protect our rights, our privileges at the best. Then we can also try to, you know, cooperate with them, or, you know, take along them if necessary for the overall growth of it. But we largely take care of what is in the best interest of a graduate who has completed BNYS, or before our generation, there was a course called ND from Osmania University. So those graduates and BNYS graduates from 1989 onwards from any college. Now we think and we create a sense of community among all of them. So they feel that there is an association which can and is working on a lot of issues of common concern. That is my concern, that why we don't have a central legislation, why we don't have a central legislation, what happened to the director position in CCRYN, what will happen to CRI, what will happen to the All India Institute of Yoga and Naturopathy, what will happen to the new status of NIN as a deemed university. So all these are our concerns, and as an association, we continuously work on seeing that nothing wrong should happen, and more empowerment comes to our graduates, to the profession, and get better identified, better regulation, and we get recognized for our work which we do very differently, very different from all other people. So that is why we needed a national association. How we came to be forming this is a very you can say that it has taken a lot of effort, a lot of trials before we have reached to this position. In 1970, the first affiliated naturopathy medical college started in Hyderabad. In 1989, the first graduate medical course of yoga and naturopathy started in the name of BNYS. Now, the first batch of BNYS comes out in 1994 from the SBM and 96 from Hyderabad College. Now, once these batches started coming out, the first batch of SDM thought in 1994 that we need to have a national association because we are very new to the whole world. I mean, nobody knows what's this BNYS. So to get this degree recognized as a medical degree, they had to initially form the association. And that was also required because BNYS was not recognized even the state of Karnataka as a medical degree at that point of time. So they had to for their own registration as well. So that was the time when Indian Naturopathy and Yoga Graduate Association, that was the earlier name of our association, was created in 1994. And the achievement of that association was that they received the medical registration in Karnataka, and then all were new graduates after the registration was received. They were all struggling for their own career and life, and only 12-13 students from the first batch. So the idea of association took a backseat for some time. Before the SDM conference, the first conference of yoga and naturopathy organized by any yoga and naturopathy institution, that was 2001, and that is where there was an effort to 7 years ago, and we created a new body, but unfortunately that could not work because there was no urgent need of association, maybe, or maybe people were so busy in their lives or struggles that was not properly realized in 2001 as well. So that effort failed. In 2003, Jindal Nature Cure Institute in Bangalore had its silver conference. So they had called an international conference. At that time, all qualified graduates, actually from 2001 onwards, all naturopathy conferences, since they started happening at the yoga and naturopathy institutions which were conducting these courses, so the attendees were also largely qualified doctors. So in 2001, people from different colleges came, and that was an attempt to form an association. In 2003, again, when the Silver Jubilee Conference was happening in Bangalore, there was a second attempt to form an association. Then SDM conference was again in Dharmasthala, and that was second conference at Dharmastha, and then there was launch of Enigma. So that was the first time the Enigma name came forward, though there was a namesake organization running in Tamil Nadu as well in the same name. But the national structure of Enigma was done in 2006. And then again in 2010, there was an attempt to relaunch Enigma because any working body was not actually functioning the whole year. So after a year, the work would be slow, and then the association would not take its functional shape. So finally, in 2004, some young people like me and Dr. Pradeep and Dr. Chandrasekharan, we all assembled and we said, okay, let's launch the national Enigma in this conference, and we did that. And from there onwards, it's a fully functional Enigma, that it's never dying kind of central secretariat. And 2017, the new central secretariat has come. Dr. Naveen is the president. Dr. Push Chetty is the general secretary of that. 2021, we are now going to revise the association once again, and the new central secretariat will have many new members as well as many national executive members. Now, after we formed association, what have we achieved in this country? So this is very important to understand, that when you don't have an association, nobody looks after your problems. Now, since Enigma was created, you will see that before the Enigma became active, somewhere around 7-8 years ago, there were only very few states which were registering. And before any association work started, there were only 2-3 states, 3-4 states actually who were giving registration. Now, after the Enigma has come into the limelight, there are many state chapters and there are many people actively working with the local governments. And with that, we have reached to 17 states and union territories now giving the yoga naturopathy practitioners registration to our graduates. So that's a big achievement of any collective work which when you do and follow up on a regular basis. Then for the last 5-6 years, again, there has been a constant endeavor to ask the central government for a statutory central regulation, which means there has to be an act passed by the parliament which protects the rights and privileges of yoga and naturopathy physicians, and only BNY degree graduates should have that privilege. So we are fighting for it, and you have seen that how intense that fight has gone in last 2-3 years. We went to the parliamentary standing committee. Parliamentary standing committee gave the report in our favor. Every time NCISM bill was proposed or passed into the parliament, there was a lot of debate and there was a lot of talk on yoga naturopathy, why it's not included, what are you going to do about it. And government has been promising since then that we are going to separate national commission for yoga naturopathy, and we are waiting. That should happen, but you know that it's a continuous lobbying, it's a continuous work which requires to be constantly fought. But I think we are very close to the statutory central regulation part, and in a very short period of time we are going to achieve that. Then the third aspect is the protection and broadening scope of employment opportunities in public sector. So there are a lot of government hospitals, government institutions, government schemes and projects where yoga and naturopathy graduates are right now not included. And that can happen if there are continuous engagement with these policy making efforts as well as with the local government authorities, that those schemes include yoga naturopathy physicians. Those yoga naturopathy physicians, those positions require BNYS graduates. So that can happen if we are constantly engaging them in continuously improving our stake in public healthcare. And that we are doing right now. 20 of our Indian states and union territories employ BNYS graduate in one form or the other. Many of them are in contractual jobs, but since the government machineries now know that there is a degree called BNYS, many of those smaller states have also started creating some permanent positions for BMIS graduates. So that will eventually happen for entire country, and we are working on that uh, sense that right now somewhere around 9 states there are permanent positions for yoga and naturopathy physicians who have this degree, and the other states are working on short-term employment basis. But I'm very hope all those states who have started taking BMIS graduates into the government schemes will employ them on a long-term basis. Similarly, there are many central projects, central schemes, and national institutes where earlier the BMIS graduates representation was very meager, very small. Now that has started increasing with the research officer positions, with assistant director positions. So more of our graduates will graduate into those senior categories very soon. Of course, that will happen first for those people who are already working in that sector, but eventually those positions also will increase, and many new graduates will get that opportunity. Then organizing and supporting conferences, seminars, workshops, webinars. We have been doing that. We have been holding the national as well as international conferences. 2 years back, NIGMA was part of a large conglomerate, which actually had a global assembly of Ayurveda, Yoga, and Naturopathy together in Greater Noida. I'm sure that some of you may have participated in that. So we are working continuously by just increasing the overall, the presence of Enigma and Yoga Naturopathy profession for the people within the contemporary and associating professions, as well as the larger people that they recognize that there is a qualified Yoga Naturopathy physician. Similarly, publications. So far, Enigma has not done a lot of publications, but I remember there are two books which are current and very recent. And one is that Enigma white paper on yoga and naturopathy medical profession, which we have almost completed. I think within a month or two that should be out. It's a very extensive work, a lot of chapters. And that's a complete comprehensive report on what yoga and naturopathic physician and this whole profession and the medical education and the regulation, all that, everything is there in that report. So hundreds of our scholars and physicians and Enigma active members have been contributing to that. And then recently you may have seen that there was a launch of COVID response by Enigma, which was inaugurated by Honorable Union Minister Supad Naikji. So we have taken a very COVID as an opportunity to create a uniform protocol, a standard protocol, which can be followed for each category of COVID patients, positive, uh, with symptoms, mild symptoms, moderate symptoms, or in combination with allopathic care, and even post COVID recovery and prevention of COVID. So all spheres of COVID, we have covered that protocol, and we trained hundreds of our graduates in that. We started the teleconsultation part. We started giving the live online programs. The most important aspect of the whole exercise was a lot of students, a lot of our graduates got to know what is the standard care for COVID. And that's a very, very important aspect to begin with. We can create protocols of similar kind for a lot of other diseases which are necessary to be created. But this is a very good starting point. So these are the two publications. One is already completed and launched. The second one, we are in the process of launching it. And these are very beautiful documents which we have prepared. Then the part of international community, World Naturopathic Federation, Enigma was one of the founding members of World Naturopathic Federation. And we have been continuously engaged with over 90 countries which are have the naturopathy practice in the entire world. And you'll know that Enigma yoga and naturopathy physicians graduated from India with PNI's degree and recognized, and in some countries they also get licensed with our degree. So uh, that's a very good achievement. So we keep internationally very active, and we are very closely connected with the professions of naturopathy in USA, Canada, Europe, uh, and other parts of the world, and we are continuously engaged with them. So as part of the association, we are able to do that. Individually, it was very difficult to maintain that kind of relationship. Now, if you ask me, what should Enigma do in the next few years, I have, you know, created some objective points for my association. And the first uh, point which I believe is that position Enigma as the voice of the entire professions. So there should not be any BNY's graduate or student who should feel that there is no association for him. Everybody should feel that Enigma is a large family and I should be a part of it, so that it speaks for everyone together. And that is the number one objective which I believe. The number two is achieve central regulation for yoga and naturopathy medical education and clinical practice, as well as all those states. Right now we have 17 states which are giving the state registration. So there are close to about 13, 14 states which are not having the state regulation. So all those states which are not having registration, as well as a central regulation for both medical education and clinical practice, which means that all our medical colleges should be standard, should be well regulated, their hospitals should be regulated, their teaching infrastructure should be well regulated. And when the graduates come out of those colleges, they should be immediately be given a clinical practice registration and all those obligations which require that certification. We will follow that, but definitely we want the highest standards for our graduates and students. Number three is increase media coverage for yoga and naturopathy professionals. I think since we have started coming out, organizing conferences, many good speakers have started coming out. We have remarkable CMEs going on, we have remarkable workshops going on. And now our graduates are realizing the need for upgrading themselves. So they are even ready to pay and attend to that. And many of our graduates have launched very valuable courses right for just BNY's graduates. While I congratulate them, I also understand that we need to go out of our community, speak to the people, speak to the masses. Some of our graduates are doing it very brilliantly in Karnataka, in Andhra and Telangana. I think that everywhere, wherever we run an institution, we should cover a large part of media around us. And when we speak a lot of value than somebody who is not having any qualification, somebody who is not regulated, somebody who is not having any knowledge, the right kind of information. So we will be able to differentiate our profession from all those people who are not sufficiently qualified by engaging ourselves continuously with the
Dr.
media.
Rajesh, please conclude in 2 minutes if possible.
Okay. And then what was my time? Oh, I'm
You
crossing
are
it.
10 minutes
Sorry.
ahead. No problem.
Ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah. So, and then universal treatment cost reimbursement, insurance coverage, define broadly the scope of practice and modalities of treatment. Like, acupuncture is one modality, definitely we would never like to lose. Similarly, nutrition and many other things will come to thing like, where we'll have to work as an association to keep our rights intact. Increase professional success and employment opportunities for our professionals, foster a sustainable, unified, and resilient community, promote interprofessional collaboration, and attain the financial and human resource necessary to carry out the above nine. Uh, I think this is something which I wanted to emphasize to all of you, that this is the time that we should all unite and come together as part of the profession. And Enigma will do better things for you only when you are part of it. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Pradeep.
Thank you, sir. It said a leader takes a system where it wants to go, but the great association takes the system where they don't necessarily want to go, but ought to be. Sir, you are actually an integral part of the team, and we are really blessed to follow your work in uplifting our system of naturopathy and yoga. Thank you, sir, for this amazing session and your invaluable time. We take privilege to thank Enigma, our co-organizer, for such a great support. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Enigma. Thank you. Now to move ahead, the last session of second technical sessions of today, we have eminent personality amongst us, Dr. Gulabrai Tewani. He's a dynamic physician, entrepreneur, professor, researcher, health buff, and a fitness devotee. He has been dedicated learner, stable supporter of naturopathy. Currently, he's working as a chief medical officer of Sant Hirdaram Yoga and Nature Cure Hospital, Arogya, located at Bhopal, City of Lakes. His multifaceted personality, working for the promotion of naturopathy in the world since he believes it's a need of hour. For this, he runs a popular, well-liked show on YouTube, the Health Talk Show with Dr. Gulab Tewani. He is the CEO of Arogya Health Products, offering wide range of supplies like sugar-free natural sweets, juices, sprouts, etc., etc. With this vision of imparting nutrition to kids, he started a natural diet supplementation program in 6 schools, supplying more than 10,000 students in entire 1 year, and got wondrous results in the student performance. We welcome you, sir. Today, he'll be enlightening us and sharing his expert knowledge on metrics of quality in yoga and naturopathy settings, opportunities, and challenges. Dr. Gulab Tewani.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And hope I am audible.
Yes, you are audible.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I'll share the screen. Today we are going to deal with an important topic relevant to the quality and metrics of quality for yoga and naturopathy settings. Hope my screen is visible. Yes. So if we talk about an quality, what we get first time in our mind, we get whether the quality is good or bad. So if we talk about when we are working on the quality, there are some opportunities what we are going to do. And when we are getting a good quality for naturopathy and yoga settings, and also there will be some of the challenges which we need to overcome. So when we say that what is quality, so there is a quality scale, and in that quality scale we are having a 1 to 5 rating. So if we talk about very good or excellent, that is 5, and very poor, it's 1. So basically we start with 1 and our aim is to reach 5. So that is the quality scale, how we are going to determine the quality. And if we talk about in terms of how good something is, beautiful or attractive,
Sir, you are mute.
So you are mute actually. Am I audible? Dr. Gulab
If you would like to see in a picture, there is an healthy orange and there is rotten oranges. So that determines the quality. And what is quality of care? So perform daily to benefit patients without causing harm to them. Pay attention, use methods that have been tested to be safe, affordable, the practice according to the set standards. So there are standards set by Quality Council of India, the NABH, and if we are getting it that, so we will be able to improve the quality over a period. So what are that standards we will see in the further slides, but before going to that, we will just see what is accreditation. So it is a self-assessment, the external peer review process used by healthcare organization to accurately assess their level of performance in relation to established standards and to implement way to continuously improve the healthcare system. We are focused to improve the healthcare system, and that is quality is not one night stand. It's like an continuous process through which you will be able to achieve an over a period of time. That's why it's depending on the scale also. And also sometimes you will be having excellent quality, sometimes you will be having a medium rated quality. But if you are achieving the highest standards, then definitely that healthcare system will be able to improve the quality being on the established standards for that HCO. And when we are self-assessment doing it, also what we are doing assessment that is being reviewed by an external peer review process. So your quality system, which you are going to implement, that will be more effective. Also the compliances with the standards prescribed by NABH. So standards are suitable for the Indian scenario. And when we are talking about accreditation, at that time we hear the word in India, that is NABH. So what is NABH? NABH is the Constitute Board of Quality Council of India, sets up to establish and operate accreditation programs for HCOs, so healthcare organizations. So there are NABH standards, various standards for all the HCOs, like for the ICHW system, for the medical system, for every hospital, even there is an NABL. So for laboratories, there are also the Board of National Accreditation. So when we talk about the ICHW hospital, and in ICHW hospital, we have yoga and naturopathy standards. That standards, when we talk about, we have 10 chapters, 87 standards, 515 objective elements. If we achieve all these, if we compliance with all these standards, each accreditation standard is an expectation or requirement which make it possible to deliver the quality care. So remember, we want to give a quality care to the patient, because if we are giving a safety to a patient and quality of care to the patient, that means your objective of the organization is being fulfilled. Now, objective elements are subcomponents of the standards. So that's why 515 objective elements we need to compliance. Now, if we talk about the various chapters, there are two bifurcations in that. One is patient-centered. So there are 5 chapters, which is oriented to the patient care. And in that 5 chapters, that is assess, assessment, and continue of care, where we assess the patient, reassess the patient, we take complete in detail cases free. Also, we will document each process. So quality comes with documentation. What you say, you document, and that documentation process is going to make you strengthen. Second, care of the patient. When the patient is in your premises, he is your liability. So you have to take care of the patient. Patient will take care by himself, but the HCO responsibility is to take care for that patient when you are admitting a patient. Then management of treatment. So this is MOT in medical, in Ayurveda. We're talking about the other standards, NABH standards to the other hospitals. That comes management of medication. So that is the two different things. Management of medication will come for the allopathy hospitals, the other Ayush hospitals, whereas in naturopathy and yoga, we have management of treatment. So how we manage the treatment, whether our treatment procedures are having an SOPs, standard operating procedures or not. And most of the hospitals, if we are taking an HCOs, what we practice, if we give one treatment, that should be and specified under an standard operating procedures. Then the patient right and education and hospital infection control. So HIC is very important when the patient is coming without infection to the hospital and getting infection and going it from the hospital. So it is a responsibility of HCO to disinfect the hospital. And during the COVID times, it has given most importance to the HIC chapter. Why? Because the hospital infection get controls when you are adopting proper procedures, procedures and the standards, which is going to help you to overcome the infection and make a zone zero infection zone. These are the standards which are centered to the management. So it is not only an doctor's responsibility, but also it is a responsibility of an management to come to the standards like continuous quality improvement. So there should be a separate budget for an quality improvement. Your quality should not compromise because of lack of funds or lack of money, or that budget had. So that should be the quality improvement. So never it should get affected with the financial crisis. Also the responsibility of management. So that is the responsibility of management when we are going with the next chapter, facility management and safety. So in that, even the management plays an important role to go for the facility rounds and also to take care that whether the continuous quality improvement process or the standards are being implemented or not. Also the human resource management. So you need to give an appraisals also, you need to take care about your staff, you need to manage the HR, and also you need to implement the roles and responsibilities, job descriptions, so many things comes under an HR. So you need to have that. And then last is information management system. So that is what most important when the patient is in your premises, how you are going to manage the information about that patient, whether that patient in your HCO has got improvement or not. So all that things will add on to your quality and patient safety. Now, when we talk about quality management in the healthcare system or healthcare NGO, so in this initiative to address the quality in the healthcare has become a global phenomenon where we are improving the quality by approaching or the process by approaching to the organizational operational challenges. The quality revolution for delivery of service with the patients at the center and the service around it demands of the time. Now, patient satisfaction is desirable outcome of the quality assurance program that requires patient-centered care, delivery, and also compliance with the standards and efficient protocols. Now, when we talk about the quality in HCO, so these are the benefits and the process of quality carries on in that flowchart. So if you can see the benefit to the HCO, benefit to the patient, benefit to the healthcare personnel, benefit to the quality, institutional development, also patient safety, risk management. So these are the benefits. The most important benefit is quality control, and how you are going to control: plan, act, check, and do. So what you plan, act accordingly, keep checkpoints, and do it in that executive manner. And when we talk about the process of quality, there will be self-analysis. So self-assessment will be the first process. Then organizational gap you have to analyze. Also quality assurance you need to do. Then total quality management. And one day you will recognize with a quality, that is international accreditation. So even the NABH is being ISQA accredited. So that's why the process of quality never ends. It's beginning. So when you start taking these processes, your quality automatically will increase. Now, what is the metrics of quality? Now, if we see about that, one thing is the documentation, standard operating procedures, training standards, safety of the family, patient, staff and visitor, then grievances handling system. So this is going to make your metrics of quality control. Now, is documentation important? This is very most important question which comes to the physician's mind. Why we need to write this much of case history? Once the patient is entered to the clinic, write just treatment and send it for the treatment. Why we need to make it the long case histories, short case histories for OP patients, and do waste such a important time of the physician? No, documentation is very important. Why it is very important? Medical record system you will be developing. Patient admission and discharge, when patient got admitted, when patient is getting discharged, that will be monitored. If any incidents happening in your hospital to the patient, that also will be documented, because that determines your quality. Medical equipment maintenance. So if your equipments are not functioning properly, and if it is not documented, when patient goes to the for the treatment and sits on the spinal bath and gets an electric shock, so that is the incidence what it is happening. So at least you need to keep a check on the medical equipment, and by proper documentation process only you will be able to achieve this. Next, infection control and prevention. For that also you need to keep record, because today you have disinfected full hospital, but tomorrow once again, if you have not mentioned the date when you have disinfected, then next time you will not remember. After 3 months or 6 months, there is a high risk of possibility of getting infection. So that's why you need to keep the documentation for that. Even the grievances, you need to properly document in a form of complaint register, or so that if there are any complaints in your HCO, you should be handling through your committee. So I will come to the various committees in the future slide, but documentation process is very important. So don't miss the documentation process, because that comes into an hospital information system. So that is the last chapter, very important. Even in the first chapter, when you are assessing the patient, when you are generating the document for the patient, when you need to keep your document in a full privacy, at that time documentation process is most important. Now, standard operating procedure. Now, these manuals are going to determine what you do in your HCO. In treatment section, what you do, you document it. If you are giving a mud pack treatment, you document the SOP for the mud pack. If you do the massage treatment, you document the massage treatment SOPs. Even any treatment you are giving it, you have a standard operating procedures. Also, housekeeping. In housekeeping, how you are disinfecting the floor, that also being determined in an SOPs. So for SOPs, these are the following things for which you will require an SOPs procedures. So that is housekeeping, emergency handling, infection control, safety, incidents handling, procurement and delivery of diet, grievances handling, and waste disposable. So these all are required to have standard operating procedures. Now, even if you are talking about training of medical staff or training of non-medical staff, training standards also should be determining, and that in your manuals, you will be focusing more on how frequently you are going to train your staff. Once you have training, your staff is completely trained in-house. When the patient come to the hospital, what your staff is going to do. So Even when we are talking about the reception staff or the executive front desk executive, when we are talking about, we need to keep an orientation for them. So if they are knowing about your HCO, they will explain better about your HCO. If your staff is not knowing about you, your staff is not going to produce the information to the patient about your organization. Even when the treatment we are executing, at that time also, they should have a knowledge of treatment, their effects, even some of the complications, what happens, or crisis, healing crisis, what it happens, so that they should not get panic. They should not make patient to the panic. So these all comes into an continuing training standards. So that also we need to take care. Now, when we are talking about safety of the family, patients, and staff, visitors, so whoever comes to your hospital, they are having a very much prone places to get fall, or sometimes they will not get the signages in the hospital where they need to go. Also, some of the times we will not get the first aids in the hospital. So that all things should be set down. If any incidents is happening, first to prevent the incidents, we need to do the preventive action. So corrective action and preventive action. If the incident has happened, what you are going to do the corrective action? Once you have taken the corrective action, how you are going to prevent? So that is CAPA, corrective action and preventive action. So that this incident, again, it should not happen to your hospital or in your HCO. So that you are going to prevent yourself. Now, there is a fire hydrant system, fire safety also, infection control also, and also biomedical waste disposal. So these all things you need to take care with the proper signages also. And your staff should be trained to demark or distinguish between the disposable or based on the color given by the hospital infection standard. So that we need to follow and dispose the biomedical waste generated in your hospital, and also the therapist or the trained staff who is able to operate in the incidents at the time of fire or anything. At that time, your staff should be trained to operate all these things. So that is also going to give you a continuous quality improvement. Now you can take care of, you can just see the images over here. If there is an uneven surface and if there is no demarcation with the highlighter, so it's going to make the patient fall. So that's why these are the signages required. Also, when the patient is sitting in the hip bathtub and if there is no grab bars, so a patient without support will not be able to. So there is every possibility of falling down in the treatment section. So these are the incidences what happens in the naturopathy hospitals. So in that way, we need to protect, we need to care, we need to have a safety standards in our hospital. Now, when we talk about the grievances handling system, so there is a various committees. So it's not overburden to the organization that NABH means like a fear. No, in further slides, I will talk about that. But grievances handling system is going to, as your grievances reduces, your quality improves. So think about you are improving the quality and reducing the grievances. Now, clinical committee will take care about all the documentation process and the patients related data. Also, the quality assurance committee is going to look after in whole hospital that whether the continuous process is taken care or not, or whether the standards are being followed or not. And then internal complaint committee, if complaint comes from the staff or anything, if it is happening within, so that also we need to take care. Then ethical committee also should be. Why? Because any research projects you are taking up in your organization, there should be an ethical process, because these all things are so confidential. So your hospital information should not be leaked from your hospital. Once if it is done, then you are gone. Your HCO is being shut down. Why? Because your information of the patient should not be leaked from your hospital. So that is why you will be having an ethical committee also, safety committee also. Then even the diet committee also being focused to do all the activities what is happening related to the food. So even you need to fulfill the statutory requirements of the hospital by having and building safety certificates, food safety certificates, electrical safety certificates. So these all things you need to procure. But once you procure it, then you are free. Free in a way that you are an HCO accredited by a national board and your quality is improved. So once you do it, it's not a tough task, but if it is only heard, if you are hearing it, then it is tough. But when you are doing it, it's very simple task, day-to-day activity you have to perform. Only that much you need to do. Now I talk about an hospital, that is the Sant Hirdaram Yoga and Nature Cure Hospital. So it is an NABH accredited. Once you are having an NABH certificate, the other certificates become very simple for you to achieve, like CGHS you have got. So we have got the CGHS empanelment. We have got Airport Authorities of India empanelment. Now we are moving forward to the various TPAs empanelment and insurance companies, so that patient need not to have a burden of the sickness or spending the treatment cost. The insurance companies will be reimbursing that or giving a facility of cashless treatment. Even we are working on an ECHS, that is the ex-serviceman empanelment. So these all empanelments will help you automatically once you give a benchmark of patient safety and quality of care. Once that is the benchmark, then definitely you will get all together. So slowly and gradually your footfall of the patients also will increase in your hospital. Now opportunities, when we talk about quality improvement and service delivery, so that is the most important thing. We are delivering the service without NABH also, but once you get the NABH, then what is the opportunity? So your quality will be improved. And improved revenue generation, that is the most thing important. And patient safety, improved footfall for the patients, human resource development, improvement in scope of service, medical legal immunity, recognition among peers and the patients, then operational stability. So these all are the opportunities what we are going to get once we get the NABH accredited. Now, challenges. What challenges we faced during this process, I will keep in front of you. So that is the practical thing what we have faced. We are also just keeping in front of you, so that if you are planning to start the process to get your hospital, your HCO, the NABH, so you should be aware about the challenges which is going to come near to you, and you should be overcoming with this. So cost involved in developing infrastructure and desired standard. So definitely you need to keep a separate head for improving the quality. Availability, adequately trained manpower. So when you give training to the manpower, they find themselves overburdened. But really, if you will go on hands-on training, they will not be burdened. They will be feel very much pleased to learn new things, new abilities, and their skill of actions will improve. So that is what the challenge will be coming in front of you. Then implementing and sustaining the SOPs. That is most important. Once you have implemented, then your job is not done. You are going to make your SOPs on sustaining basis, that there should be a continuous working on that. Then maintaining continuous quality improvement. Lethargy in the team, that will be most challenging job for you, because your staff will become lethargic. So you need to revamp them by boosting their inner ability to function accordingly. So that's why this lethargicness is the biggest challenge you will face. Then rigorous accreditation matrix, both opportunities as well as challenges. These all things will come in front of you. Now, fear of accreditation, you need to escape from this. If you are having a fear, lot many hospitals will not go for full accreditation. They will just try for a pre-accreditation. So if you are having a fear that I may not get it, NABH, that will make you half unproductive. But if you will have a fear, and if you remove that fear, that yes, I can do it, then you will be overcoming with this fear. How to face an audit? That is the best example to overcome your fear. Know your hospital procedure and policy. The first and foremost thing, what your hospital needs. What are the procedures in your hospital? And what are the policies in your hospital? Because your procedures and policies, if you are making it clear, then definitely you need not to fear. Know your infection control manual, because that is the most important chapter. Infection you need to control, so you should know about your infection control manual. Awareness on hospital setup and your unit orientation. Your staff is not knowing since when you are working or when your hospital was established. So that is an non-compliance to you. Why? Because if you are working from since 30 years and if your staff is not knowing you are working from 30 years, that is the big non-compliance. What you need to do it? Orient them. Specifically explain each and every procedure and policies what is happening in your hospital to each and every staff. Awareness of emergency management. That awareness also you need to give. Then departmental flow chart. So there will be an organogram. How a management person can reach to the staff working in your hospital, and how your staff can reach to the management person in case of grievances. Even they should be aware about all these things. Then the legal issue, you need to fulfill all the statutory requirements and HR policies, job description. These are the phases what you need to face during the audit time. And there will be an pre-assessment, there will be an final assessment. In two assessment, whatever non-compliances you are doing based on the standards, that will be non-compliance. You need to complete that compliance. You need to do it, that close the NCs, and slowly you need to overcome with this. So what we will do next, just, yes. Transformation. Now this transformation, how it has happened once you have faced the audit. So I can explain you the best thing in this, how we faced, how we overcome with this fear, and how we faced this audit and made ourselves completely transformed. So over a period of 32 years, we are working in a naturopathy and yoga setup. So it was popularly known as Arogya Kendra. Then we started transforming to have a good quality standards. And now, yes, we are able to achieve that. But don't think that NABH we have got, so now there is a relaxation. No, now we are having a surveillance audit also. So every time it is a continuous process. You need to undergo with all that things. So now just I will give you a glimpse overall how we have transformed from, we can say, from second rating to the 5 rating. So I'll just go through with one by one slide and you can just observe that. So how we were looking earlier in 90s, 20s, now how we are looking at, that is the transformation. Now this is the overview in the hospital and this is the overview after the NABH. So when we were non-NABH, what was the things, and now we are NABH, what we are compliancing. So most of the things you can have a comparative over here so that it is easy to make you understand that yes, if you are a doctor, if you are a HCO in charge, if you are a CMO, if you are a principal come CMO, if you are a medical officer, you should know how you need to transform yourself. So that's why, because it was not difficult for us, though it was a lengthy process, but we have tried day and night to achieve this. Our team has tried day and night to achieve this. Definitely in future also, we will be achieving such accreditations. Now, this was the look of the reception or the front office where the patient is approaching to us, and the everything, documentation process, the registration process, the generation of the UHID, unique health ID. So everything has been completely transformed. And this was the status you can see over here. The maintaining of the patient record, how we used to keep it, and now how we have started converting into an HIMS software. And we are keeping it into an HIMS where OPD and IPD record we are able to generate at any point of time. But priorly, we were not able to generate the document because it was in a manual form. So now from manual to customized, when we have come to an HIMS software, it is easy for us to relocate. Now that was the structure, Arogya Kendra in a manual form, and this is into an HIMS form. So over here you can see now we are able to generate the barcode. We are able to hide the identity of the patient, but maintain the record system, maintain the complete detailed case history into an electronic form. Anytime we can retrieve, and also we can give the treatment details. Why? Because these all things will be required when you are having a CGHS and you need to present the claims. You should be having a complete case sheet form. And now if you will write into a manual form, you will not be able to identify how many various type of diseases patients have arrived to your hospital. But in a single click, you can identify over a period of year how many number of patients you got with the various illnesses. So that will provide you an automatically data for an ethical team to work on the research project. So research committee will start working on that data, and they will start publishing the researches based on the effects what they have got it. So this is the transformation what we got. Now over you can see here the difference between the HIBBAT. Prior to an NABH and after NABH, the quality automatically has increased. Why? Because first the patient is seeing the non-NABH hospital, and HIBBAT, if they are seeing it, they will have a bit of apprehension to sit and take the treatment in that, because that could be prone to the infection. But over here, you can prevent that by adopting an HIC standards, so that you can do it. Even you can see the difference into the staff. Priorly, they were not using the gloves. They were not protected themselves, but now they are being protected themselves. Even you can see now this, I will be giving you an overview for 30 years. So I will not say this is the bad quality at that time. That is a good quality at that times. But now time has changed. Now transformation is taking place. Now over a period of time, if again you will go treatment in such a way, so patients will hesitate to come and take treatment in that setup, whereas you can go and give a good ambience and good quality treatment with a good modernization. So that is going to help people to have a good confidence in your system. Your standards will be followed, your quality will be improved, and patient will find themselves to have a great safety in your HCO to come. Now this you can see the changes. You can find a difference about the anti-skid mats are being placed where the patient footfall or the hydrotherapy treatment section where maximum falls will take place in the patients. Those who are not taking care about the anti-skid mates, so we can use it this. And then you can see overview of the separate private daycare ward. Even in we find that in a daycare ward also there should be, and the same standard should be followed, and you can find the difference, the transformation from non-NABH to NABH. And even there is a self-explanatory signages everywhere you will find. So patient, you need not to guide where they need to go. It is everything is being marked. They just need to follow the instructions. Now this transformation, you can see the difference what you find over here. Even now at a glimpse, after we got the NABH, this is the look of OPD what we are having it. And this is the look of IPD what we are having. So you are increasing the quality, you are increasing the patient flow, you are increasing the revenue generation. These are all the opportunities. And also first most important achievement is the patient safety and quality of care. Quality of care should not be affected in your HCO. So this is the overview. Now, this is our Sant Hirdaram Yoga and Nature Cure Hospital is MP's first NABH accredited hospital. Also India's first NABH Yoga and Naturopathy accredited hospital, that is the teaching hospital. So attached to a medical college. And there is a documentary, but I don't think so there is a time. So we will skip the documentary. We will play some other time documentary. So much. Let us turn the idea to action together. So it's not only the point of one hospital going for NABH accreditation or the 5 hospitals. It is the 500 hospitals which are present in the India should act togetherly and have an NABH accreditation. Improve the quality, improve the patient footfall, also with the patient safety. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. There is always space for improvement, no matter how long you have been. You always believe in constant improvement.
Sir, you are muted.
She has changed the audio setting.
Am I audible?
Yes, change the audio setting.
Now you can go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are now.
There is always space for improvement, no matter how long you have been. You always believe in constant improvement and constant change. You are a motivator for all of us. Thank you, Dr. Gulab, for sharing with us your expert knowledge and experience on metrics of quality in yoga and naturopathy setting. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now we are at the end of our today's technical session, day 4. In life, every day comes with a certain challenges and ends by providing some of great experiences. And every experience is a positive experience if we view it as an opportunity for growth and self-mastery. With these positive words, we come to an end of this day and eagerly longing to meet you in a new day with immense amount of new knowledge and experience. Thank you for patient listening. Good night. Be safe. Be healthy.